Hi guys, it is day 4 of my live videos here at Courtney Burton Fitness. And today I wanted to share with you kind of a quote that I heard the other day that just really resonated with me. And I've heard it said a bunch of different ways before, but for some reason this time when it was said like this, it got me. It made me kind of really realize what the meaning behind it was. And it's that if you can't define it, you can't have it. And I know that might sound really silly, but for me, this just kind of really hit me. And I can talk about this in a couple of different ways. And actually, I've been talking to Braden about this, so maybe he will pop in here and give a little insight as well. We'll see if we get a little special guest today. So I've been thinking about this, and it's so funny. For so long, so think about success, for example. This is an interesting story. If you think about success, if you can't define it, you can't have it. And so what is success to you? How do you define success? And if you don't know, then how are you ever going to obtain that? And so here's a funny story for you. And also just about sharing what your definition of these things are. Because especially with your partner, because if they don't know what your definition of success is, or of what love is, or of what, the vacation you want to go on is, if you can't define it to them, then they're not going to know what it is, and you're never going to get it. You're never going to get satisfied. You're never going to get what you really want. And so Braden and I, it was really funny. Let's talk about success, for example. At this point, I had in my head for years and years and years, my definition of success was living in a camper and traveling around the country. It was the only thing that I'd ever wanted to do. I'd had this dream since I was like a little kid, teenager or so. I was like, man, I'm going to live in a camper and just be like this vagabond and live this super cool life. And that's like what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. And so the year prior to that, Braden and I'd started my own paddleboard business, and Braden helped me open it. And, that summer in my head, we rocked it. We rocked it. My business was working. And so here I am, I'm living out my dream. I'm living in the camper. I just had what I thought at the time was a killer summer with my paddleboard business. And we'll talk about that too a little bit later. My killer summer with my paddleboard business. And we're in the camper, and Braden's like, all right, we need to start thinking about next summer. I'm like, wait a second, what? He's like, we need to start thinking about next summer. This summer was great and all. We did okay, but it's time to start planning for that next stage, that next phase, because in his head, he already understands, if you can't define it, if you don't have a definition, if you don't have it written down, if you don't have a goal, you're never going to achieve it. And in my head, here I am, I'm like, oh man, we reached that goal, right? We profited, we weren't in the red, we didn't go bankrupt, and now we're living in our camper and traveling around the country. Isn't this success? And y'all might think I'm crazy. But isn't this success? We're doing it. And it's funny because, yes, he did not take credit away from that success for me in my adult life, but he was just ready to talk about that next definition of success and that next definition of what the next level was. And I had no clue, you guys. I had no clue. He was asking me to define my next level of success. And it took me a really long time to get there and figure it out, but I'm glad I had somebody pushing me and talking to me about it, because I don't think I would ever obtained it or even had it in my sights. A lot of the things that I have in my sights, I've not obtained yet, but they're there. I can define, I have a clear definition of what this next level of success looks like for me. And it might mean living in a camper again. I don't know yet. Or in a shed or on a boat or somewhere really cool. Because for me, and it doesn't have to be monetary, guys. I don't want you guys to think about this as this monetary thing, that it has to be money. Because it doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be success means $1 million in the bank. Because for a lot of us, I don't think that that's what we look at success as or rate success as. I think we have different levels. We rate it on experiences that we're having, or the happiness level, or our joy level, or our comfort level. A lot of people rate success on those kind of things as well. And that's fine. But at the same time, guys, don't discount monetary and physical goals like that. Like, as far as success goes, like, and for so long I did that, and I took this pride in this fact that I didn't need much. Everything that I owned could fit in the back of my old beat up pickup truck that Braden made me sell when we got together. She was like, I cannot be, this thing is heinous. I loved that truck. But everything that I owned could fit in the back of my little pickup truck. And I worked in restaurants, so I could pick up and work wherever I wanted to. And I was so happy on so little. And guys, that is great. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. But I didn't have goals. Like, I didn't have any sort of future goals. Like, I had living in a camper. And then once I reached that goal, Braden was like, all right, what's next? And literally, I had never thought about past living in a camper. Like, I never thought about being an adult, really, which may sound really bizarre to some of you guys, but maybe that's why I didn't take that very traditional career path of getting out of college and getting a job and all this kind of stuff, because I just didn't have that vision, and you guys did. So I think there's a lot of I think it's really interesting when you think about it. If you think about your definition of success and where you are, you're on a certain path because of that definition that you hold in your head, no matter what. Like, you're on that path. So I just think it's really interesting. And so now my definition of success, I have a couple different definitions of success and where I'm going, and I feel like I can clearly define it. And it's something that Braden and I talk about often, what our definition of success is. Because guys, if we didn't talk about that, if his definition of success is, say, making $1 million in a year, and my definition of success is, going on one vacation a year, or I don't know, making $50,000 a year or something, if it's like monetary like that. Dude, those goals are way off. And his expectations of my work level are going to be way off. And my expectations of his work level are going to be way off. And this has happened to us before. Before we started actually like having these discussions and defining it, Braden's expectation level was like way up here, and my money kind of expectations were way down here. And here's what happened. I was angry because he was working all the time. And he was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, yeah, you're getting the things done that you want to get done, but where is that drive to level up? And so we've had to kind of come here to meet in the middle and talk about those goals and talk about what they really mean. Like, for me, a lot of it more is like spending quality time together, is a huge goal of mine. And so it's just about talking about those definitions so you can meet there. Another really interesting conversation that I just recently had with a friend that I think really applies to this topic is romantic relationship definitions. A lot of us I'm a woman, so I can say this. I have unrealistic, freaking crazy definition of relationship. Like, psycho. Poor Braden. I have like a psycho expectation of what a definition of relationship. And if I didn't have that definition, I would never have it. You know what I mean? And I think this is where people get confused sometimes, is that they have different definitions of what a romantic relationship, what a friendship relationship, a business relationship, about what any relationship looks like. They have different definitions in their head, and they don't share that, or they can't articulate it. And if they can't articulate it, dude, how are you ever going to meet that expectation, right? Like, if Braden couldn't articulate what he expected out of a relationship, how would I ever be able to meet that? And vice versa. Does this make sense at all? And so, I don't know, for some reason, just the whole thought of, if I can't define it, I can't have it. And especially like with my future and moving forward, if I can't define what the next 10 years of my life I want them to look like, I'm never going to obtain that. And so I just think it's just a really, really, really interesting concept. And going back to the whole relationship thing, like I said, I have these crazy expectations of what like a real relationship is supposed to be like, and what I'm supposed to, as far as romantic things go, and gifts and stuff like that. And I think it's awesome that Braden completely understands it, and I have been able to express it to him, because it has just benefited our relationship, and my expectations aren't up here without him knowing, and he's only meeting me down here. Do you see how that went opposite with success and relationship? Do you think that happens a lot in everybody's relationship? One person's up here on one thing and the other person's down here, and they never articulate it. And so this whole middle space is just full of disappointment and non-met expectations and anger and confusion. You just need to talk about it so you can meet here. That's all. Let's see if Braden. Yeah. Do you have anything to say about this? No. He has nothing. I guess I've done just such a fabulous job describing it, guys. So anyway, it's just something I wanted to talk about today, for my day 4 of 30 going live on my like page. And if you guys are liking what you hear, you just keep tuning in and I'll keep doing some posts.